Hi folks, I'm Richard Friedman and welcome to my political cartoon countdown for February 25th, 2021. Each week, based upon the reactions on Twitter, I categorize the top 5 cartoons and we go at the countdown. We do our countdown from the number 5 to the number 1 political cartoon on Twitter, basically going by impressions on Twitter. And I want to welcome you today to my political cartoon countdown. And before we get started, I just want to tell you a little bit about my brand new book in my series of issues on the Donald J. Trump presidency books, political cartoon books. And this is my latest book, The Greatest 2020 Book of Political Cartoons on Issues of the Donald J. Trump Presidency. So this covers right through, it goes right to January 20th, and you could see here the last, I'll give you the first page and the last page, and here's the first page here. Well, anyway, I did this in a little bit of reverse order based upon what was going on with the going from after the election, going on to the issues. So I started the chapter 1 with the election, what went on in the prior days of the election. So therefore, this was the first cartoon here, and you see President Trump having a dream of his farewell. The Capitol gives him a farewell send-off, and that was a dream with the American flag and a Trump flag flying adjacent to it from the Capitol. And his dream was to go out with that glory of having his Trump flag flying over the Capitol alongside the American flag. After the military, he wanted the military to give him a military send-off with an elaborate parade, something with probably some tanks and stuff like that. But they declined to do that. So instead of that, he might have dreamed of a farewell. And this could have been his dream, flying from the Capitol. And the last page of the book is President Trump flying off from Washington, from a base in an airport in the Washington, D.C. area, with Sinatra, to the beat of Sinatra, My Way song, as he flew out, going to the plane. You see here the speakers and everything playing his song. The last trip on Air Force One, as he leaves, taking that last journey back to Florida. You see the speakers, the plane. There's President Trump giving his thumbs up. And to the background, and there it goes, I'll do a little rendition, okay? I'm no Sinatra. And now the end of my presidency is near. My friends, I'll say it clear. I've had 4 years that were full and planned each charted step along my golf course, but much more than this, I did it my way. Yes, there were times, I'm sure you knew, when you all thought our democracy was through. But through it all, when there was doubt, my Republican friends ate it up and stuck it out. The record shows I took the blows, but I did it my way. Yes, it was my way. And there's the plane, as he boards the plane with the speakers. Okay, so the rest of it is a lot of cartoons here. You can see some of this stuff here. I don't want to get into this too much, but you can see there's Tiny Tim in the Rose Garden with President Trump playing his tiptoe through the tulips. That's how, a little creative there. Here's Caitlin McNamee, Trump, and watching her. There's former Vice President Pence and former President Trump pointing to McNamee. And so here's, well, you get the gist of the book. Each time I do an introduction, I'll try to pick out different cartoons to show a couple, give it a little bit of a, kind of a sampling of the book. If you want to really get a good look at my book, my new book, you could go to my website, which is Richards, with no apostrophe S, just plain Richards, small letters and no spaces, Richards Books of Political Cartoons.com. And you can order the book from Amazon. There's a link there. So it's only $12.95. So it's a it's one for that you'll keep on your shelf and you'll refer to it always. It won't just be a dust collector, because it's something that's part of our history, and it's done in a way that's informative, and it gives you a laugh at the same time. So again, and it's left up to the reader to decide. There's no kind of like making a statement. It's just the facts made into a joke with the hard work of my I don't want to say artistic, but the best I have to. I always say every time I do a cartoon, I say to myself, I'm not an artist. I just get lucky. Every time I do a cartoon, I just get lucky. So that's the way I look at it. So anyway, let's have a go at the countdown for the week, and starting off with number 5. Funny thing, Ted Cruz was number 1 last week. He's dropping down on the charts here to number 5. Last week his cartoon was number 1. This week it's number 5. So it's kind of that's how it goes. So here he is. Here's Ted Cruz. Now, what happened here was Senator Ted Cruz, Republican, Texas, said he immediately had second thoughts. That's his exact words. Second thoughts as he escaped a frozen, powerless Texas in a plane bound for tropical Cancun. Below, Cruz's third thoughts. He only told us he had second thoughts. This is his third thoughts, possibly. Okay, and here he is. There's Ted. Here he is. There's Ted Cruz. And this is a map, basically, and there's this plane taken off from Houston. Ted Cruz taken off on his plane from Houston. And it's going down here to, just coincidentally, it was Veracruz. He woke up when the plane passed Veracruz. That's when he woke up from the dream that he had. That was his third thought, this dream, where he woke up right off the coast of Veracruz, Mexico. Okay? So anyway, basically, here he is, taken off, and suddenly the plane somehow makes a U-turn and heads back to Houston. And that was his dream. And here's how the dream went. Okay. When I took off from Houston, I immediately had second thoughts. That's the given. And then fell asleep and dreamed my plane made a U-turn and was forced to turn around back to Houston because of these dangerous geese flying over Cancun. So they don't want to run the problem of possibly the geese flying into the engines, all those geese, so they turned around and went back to Houston. You know, the flying geese flying around Cancun here. These are the flying geese. Basically chasing the plane back to Houston, making the U-turn. There's Ted Cruz giving his explanation. These geese represented my unconscious third thoughts. And all these thoughts for my people of the great state of Texas. There it is. There's the cartoon number 5. Plane taking off, making a U-turn heading back, and the geese chasing the plane in a dream being the third thoughts. For the people of the great state of Texas. There it is. And there's the plane. Okay. Numero 4, number 4. Okay, we all gonna recognize this. Here is, let's see if you can guess before I tell it to you who it is. See if you can guess who it is before I even give you anything. In front of the Capitol. Okay, that's Senator Josh Hawley, Republican, Missouri. Senator Josh Hawley, Republican, Missouri. Okay, he's a junior senator. Photographed January 6th. Okay, this is the Capitol, the low floors of the Capitol. Raising his fist as the senator expresses his solidarity with Trump supporters in the east side of the Capitol before riots began. This is like just before the riots began. He had his fist, he was raising his fist. There he is. Okay, in the east side of the Capitol before the riots began, and before his publishing company decided to cancel publication of his forthcoming book. He has a book that was supposed to be released very shortly that he did. And this is his thoughts about his book as he's in front of the Capitol, giving them the old kind of a go for it, you know? There he is. This is his mask here. He's holding on to his mask, you know. Okay. There's his red tie. There he is. Okay. And here he's saying, this is his thoughts. This photo will make my book a #1 seller from the Donald Trump followers who will buy it like hotcakes. So all the followers that President Trump has will go out and buy his book, and it'll gain a lot of popularity. And this is basically what he might have been thinking at that moment, you know. This is a very well-educated man, went to a good law school and everything like that. So, you know, and he wrote a book, and you take it from there, folks. I think he went to an Ivy League school. I'm not sure about that, but he's very accomplished legally with his legal background and his education in law. Let's put it that way. I think he went to a prestigious law school. Let's put it clear. And this is the end result of that great education. Okay, now this is numero 3, number 3. Here we got Lindsey Graham. Always seems to turn up. That Lindsey, he's like reminds me of back in the '60s. That rock group, the Shirelles, or the Four Seasons. Better the Four Seasons. They always had a hit going all the time. when the Beatles were popular, the Four Seasons were right in there, and they hung in there, and they just were making hits left and right, and they survived. There were a few groups to survive the Beatles who did very well during the time of the Beatles. They called it the Beatles invasion. So Lindsey Graham is like the Four Seasons was, in a way to Donald Trump in that respect, because he just hangs in there, and he comes up every week, and he's getting those hits. So here he is. There's Lindsey, and here's Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell in hell with a melting snowball on top of his head, and it's all melting down. And there he is in hell from this. This is the background of this whole cartoon that I'm doing. You'll get the gist of what that's about right now. Trump loyalist Senator Lindsey Graham says the Trump movement as a Republican force is, quote, alive and well. Basically saying Republicans without Trump don't have a snowball's chance in hell. They're just going to go, just a snowball in hell. It's a pretty hot place, and it just disintegrates, and that's what was happening here, and it's disintegrating on Mitch McConnell. You see, there's Mitch. Don't seem too happy there. What's going on here? Okay, and here's Lindsey. Okay, those chance in hell. Okay, given Graham also said that Mitch McConnell's Trump speech may haunt the GOP. See, so there you have it there. So he's worried. He's more. Lindsey's concern here is about the GOP, not the USA. I mean, the USA, if it happens to work for the GOP and it benefits the USA, that's good. But if it don't benefit the GOP and it benefits the USA, hey, that's a loser. That's Lindsey's philosophy. Basically from what we see here, in his pattern of zigzagging. Lindsey zigzags reminds me of those World War II movies I used to watch. Used to love to watch those years ago. There was a series of about the Silent Service back in the 50s about submarines. It was called the Silent Service. Every week you see adventures of submarines fighting in World War II, mostly they were fighting the Japanese and the Germans and out there in the Atlantic Ocean and all over the place, the ocean. And they say, zigzag, go ahead, zigzag. Lindsey, he's like a submarine that zigzags, from the depth charges. When they were dropping the depth charges, they go to zigzag, about a zigzag. So that's that's Lindsey here doing it. So anyway, so here we go. That was called The Silent Service, for those of you who are old enough like me to remember that. It was a great TV show, The Silent Service, about submarines, boy. I used to love that show. Okay, and here's Lindsey. We don't have a snowball's chance in hell of taking back the majority without Donald Trump. And Mr. McConnell is under it. Okay? We don't have a snowball's chance in hell of taking back the majority without Donald Trump. And Mr. McConnell is under it. You see, Mr. McConnell, he don't call him Senator no more. Now he's Mr. McConnell because he's mad at Trump. You see, Mr. McConnell had a moment of I don't know what you want to call it, but anyway, so he had, let's say a moment where he wasn't pro. He had to do something there because the walls would have caved in. When the wall's about to cave in on him, that's when Mitch takes action. Then when the walls go back, he said, okay, now it's time to go back to business. So anyway, I used to call him Sing Along Mitch after the guy who had a band. There was a TV show, Sing Along with Mitch, when the guy with a beard, and he'd conduct the orchestra, and everybody would sing along with his orchestra. And they had a group would sing, and everybody at home sometimes would, I guess so, they'd encourage people to sing along with Mitch, and that was the name. So I gave Mitch McConnell the name Sing Along Mitch, based upon he always would sing along with President Trump throughout his administration. And now it's just like it's like a little bit. He's like on the Titanic, you know. He can't decide whether he wants to go in the lifeboat or go down with the ship, you know. It's kind of, but he's made that decision now to try to he just did a balancing act there. Well, anyway, we're not going to get into that one, but I just wanted you to see this as to where the idea here was to convey Lindsey Graham's thoughts and how he's thinking here, and representing Mitch McConnell as being under the snowball and hell melting on him. Okay, that was the thrust of this cartoon. There's Lindsey. And there's Mitch, and there's the snowball in the background. Okay. Now, this cartoon was actually from last week, and it didn't make it into the top 5. So what happened after Senator Ron Johnson said something else, I retweeted it, and then boom, it went up. It lasted off like a SpaceX rocket. Boom, you know. So here it is today as a retweet from the time. It didn't do too well the first shot, and then the retweet just like a booster shot. Boom, and the booster. Here's the booster is GOP Senator Ron Johnson himself. Now, I'll give you some background here. The thing is that it's hard to imagine that he's believing what he's saying, because he's saying that basically that the rioters were Antifa, anti-fascist people, and they weren't Trump. They weren't Trump rioters. He's saying that. Now you had a Trump rioter come forth, say he was there and they were all Trump rioters. This is a Trump rioter who's telling the truth. We're all Trumpers out there, and then you had a security guard who was on the other side of the coin, who seemed 100. He seemed okay. This guy was okay. I'm not talking about those guys who are going go get him. No, this was a real security guard with the mentality of a security guard. And he said, look, these were Trump supporters, and we couldn't do anything. It was just a massive thing. So, and then here comes McCarthy, and he in this cartoon, McCarthy says it didn't seem like an armed insurrection. That was his first reaction. You see, his first negation of it being Trump supporters was to say they couldn't be Trump supporters. Impossible, because of the fact they didn't destroy the Capitol. They didn't fire. There was no guns firing. There was no cannons firing. There were no tanks. There was just a little bunch of people there, and they were nothing. And that's no insurrection. And that's what this cartoon is about here. See, because that was based upon when he said that. You see, here he is, and this is what he's saying would be a legitimate. This would be a legitimate insurgency takeover. You see, this would be a deliberate. This would be a real insurrection. This is like the real thing. The real Coke. The real thing. But this would be the real thing in terms of an insurrection. How it would be, and then we could say it was Trump supporters. If they had tanks, and then they climbed to the top of the Capitol and waved the Trump flag, and they were firing guns all over the place, that would be the real thing. A real thing as a real Trump supporter insurrection at the Capitol. They'd be there with the tanks. They'd be flying the flag. Just like when the Russians went into Berlin and raised the Soviet flag. That's what would be a real insurrection when they took over the whole place. That's the image of an insurrection. Or, well, this was an invasion, not the same thing, because this was a foreign, but the same idea of raising the flag to say we've won, we're victorious, to raise the flag over the Capitol, the Trump flag flying over the Capitol. You see, so not the same thing when you have an invading force coming in, taking over a country. That's different than people revolting. But the idea is when you raise the flag, that's what I'm really making the point here. Raising the flag over the Capitol, you know, with the tanks and everything. And there's the Capitol. And they're firing their guns, they'll be firing their guns, and they be with tanks and everything. So, all right, GOP Senator Ron Johnson says the Capitol riot didn't seem like an armed insurrection. Didn't seem that way to me, you know. An armed insurrection, and he makes a question mark. See, this was taken verbatim. Okay, see, an armed insurrection? No way. No. When you hear the word armed, don't you think of firearms? My question's, how many firearms were confiscated? There was no, they didn't take out tons of weapons and all, and a big thing with weapons carried to the sky with all the guns. No, that didn't happen. How many shots were fired? I didn't hear no shots, you know. I didn't hear anybody get, you know, like a massive brawl, you know, like a shootout at the OK Corral, you know, boom, 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 you know, like in the Wild West, you know, shootout at the OK Corral, you know, nothing like that, you know. It was. If that was a planned armed insurrection, man, this is Ron Johnson's actual words, word for word, man, you had really a bunch of idiots. Johnson's view of a smart insurrection. So this is a smart insurrection that had it been the Trump people, this is what they would have done. The Trump flag would have been waving from the Capitol, the tanks would have been there, the guns would have been all out, and we would have had a real insurrection. Okay? And here he is. Here's Ron Johnson. Can't leave him out. Here's Ron. Give him the thumbs up. Yeah. This is what would be a very smart insurrection. This is a very smart insurrection. See? Thumbs up. So now he's evolved in his position. Just recently, he said, well, they were Antifa. So they were dumb Antifa people because they didn't bring guns or tanks or anything like that. If you won't put it all together, so he's just trying. The next thing he's going to be saying they came from outer space was a space invasion from another planet who masqueraded as Trump supporters, but they weren't Trump supporters. You know, you go on and on. Every week he's got a different version of masquerading, like they masqueraded as Trump supporters. You know, they went out, they stayed home at night, and they got their hats, and they went out and ordered hats from the Trump place, and they did all these things, you know, and they made flags and everything like that, just to masquerade. It was like a Halloween ball, you know, for these Antifa folks. It was a Halloween ball. They all went there, you know, and they dressed up as Trump supporters, you know, like, you know, it was and they all had all these outfits. Oh, that looks pretty. That's a good hat you got there, you know. Where'd you get that hat? You know, a Halloween ball, and they're all dressed up in their outfits to make it look bad that these were Trump supporters, and it was Antifa who was trying to make the Trump make it look like it was Trump supporters to make President Trump look bad. I mean, you gotta go for that one. I don't know. I like the one that they came in from outer space, and they this guy like they were dressed up as humans. Like we used to see those. There was a movie once. I Married the Man from Outer Space. There was in the 50s. There was a space thriller that they used to make, and I meant to see that. So this is like the outer space rioters. The outer space rioters dressed up as Trump, you know. I mean, that's the next stage. That's the logical progression from what he's said thus far. It wouldn't be illogical for him to come out and say that based upon what he said before. So anyway, there's the cartoon. There we go. Last, you know, there it is. Okay, there he is. Capitol? Ron Johnson. Okay. Okay, folks. Numero uno de la semana. Number one. Well, wouldn't you know it? Lindsey Graham, right up there, along with former President Trump. This is Mar-a-Lago. I drew Mar-a-Lago because Lindsey went down to meet with President Trump, former President Trump, at Mar-a-Lago. Senator Lindsey Graham. You know, the idea here was to smooth things over with Mitch. You see, because Mitch and Trump now, and former President Trump and Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell are having a feud. You know, it's like the Hatfields and McCoys. You know, back then the Hatfields and McCoys, there was a feud. That's what they're having, the Hatfield-McCoy feud, which is Lindsey feels may sabotage the results of the 2022 election because they want to take back the Senate. You know, they want to take back the Senate. You see, it's like in World War II, you had when we were fighting in the islands. We got to take Iwo Jima. We got to get that island. Well, that's what it is to Lindsey. To Lindsey, this is like Iwo Jima. You know, don't care about the United States. Well, we care about This is Iwo Jima. We got to take back the Senate. You know, like was Iwo Jima. You know, I mean that's what when you see the three soldiers carrying the flag up to the top of Mountain Iwo Jima, that statue there. So this is like Iwo Jima to Senator Lindsey Graham. So forget the United States. I don't know about the United States. This is a war between Democrats and Republicans. So we gotta all unite here, and we can't be fighting among ourselves, you know. So Lindsey basically wanted to get President Trump to go easy on Mitch because he's been bombarding him. Lucky for Mitch that Trump isn't on Twitter now, because Mitch would have had to walk around Washington with his bag over his head if President Trump were on Twitter now. Mitch he'd be in the bunker where Cheney stayed during the 9/11 thing, you know, drinking beer, you know. So he'd be in the bunker somewhere, Mitch. So on the bottom of the Capitol, I should say. So anyway, this is something to joke about, but you gotta find some humor somewhere, and certainly we don't want insurrection. We don't want this in our country. But you know, my way is to get you to think about it, have a laugh, and then you decide. And that's always been my thrust of my position here, and my aim to get people to think and laugh at the same time. So anyway, this is number one of the week, and here it is. Mar-a-Lago. Here's Mar-a-Lago. And it goes, Senator Lindsey Graham, Republican, South Carolina, visits with Trump at Mar-a-Lago over concerns how the feud between Trump and McConnell will affect Republicans' chances in 2022. Okay? So here they are, right outside of Mar-a-Lago. Reality, they probably spent more time on the golf course than they did at Mar-a-Lago, but a golf course, it ain't as fun to draw as drawing Mar-a-Lago here, you know. So anyway, so there it is. There's Mar-a-Lago. There's Lindsey Graham. There's President Trump, his red Republican tie there. And there, again, another shot at Mar-a-Lago. Okay. And here's conversation. Lindsey, welcome back to my winter White House. What can I do for you? And then Lindsey says, Mr. President, this feud between you and Mitch has fractured our Republican Party. To take back the Senate in 2022, we have to be united. We can't do it without you, Mr. President. So, okay, and then he says here it goes. I agree. At CPAC, I will declare my leadership of the Republican Party to unite it. In other words, I'm going to declare leadership of the Republican Party to unite it, without even firing a shot at Mitch's chins. He was going to make fun of Mitch's chins, but he held back, and he's still going to hold back. He ain't going to make fun of Mitch's chins. Just at CPAC, he's going to declare himself the leader of the Republican Party. And that's how President Trump plans to unite the party. And there he is. And there's a cartoon. Mar-a-Lago. Senator Lindsey Graham visiting former President Trump and President Trump. Okay, folks, I want to thank you very much for watching my cartoon countdown for the week, and I wish you all a good week, and take care of yourselves, be well, and God bless you, and God bless America.